Lyon is a city that whispers its own importance. It doesn't need to shout. It knows what it is. Sit at the confluence of the Rhône and the Saône rivers. Lyon has been powerful for over 2,000 years. Romans built a city here. The Middle Ages made it a center of trade. The Renaissance transformed it into one of Europe's most important cities. And yet, somehow, it remains understated, elegant, real. When you first see Lyon through street view, you notice the geography. 2 rivers, peninsulas of land between them, hills rising up. The city doesn't spread flat like Paris. It climbs. It nestles into valleys. It uses the natural landscape as part of its architecture. Vieux Lyon, the old town, sits on the west bank of the Saône. This is where everything started. Medieval streets so narrow you can almost touch both walls at once. The buildings are tall and painted in colors that have faded over centuries. Ochre, cream, soft pink, weathered green. They're not painted to look pretty. They're painted because this is how people have lived here for 500 years. Generation after generation, adding their own layer of paint, their own mark on the city. The streets of Vieux Lyon aren't empty. You see people, shop owners, residents, someone carrying groceries, a cafe where locals sit and drink coffee. This isn't a museum. This is a neighborhood where people live, work, eat, raise families. The fact that it's also beautiful, historically significant, and architecturally stunning is almost secondary. But the architecture is remarkable. The buildings are from the Renaissance. The Renaissance didn't just happen in Italy. It spread to France, to Lyon. You see it in the details: carved doorways, arched windows, stone carvings that have survived centuries of rain and weather. Each building tells a story of craftsmanship, of intention, of people who built things meant to last. Scattered through Vieux Lyon are traboules. These are passages, secret passages, some of them, that cut through the buildings, connecting one street to another. They were built for practical reasons. People needed shortcuts through the dense neighborhood. But they became part of Lyon's identity. Hidden pathways, secret routes. They give the city an air of mystery. You walk down a street and suddenly discover a passage that takes you somewhere unexpected. Rising above it all, on the hill of Fourvière, stands the Basilika, Notre-Dame de Fourvière. White, massive, imposing. It's visible from almost anywhere in Lyon. Built in the 1800s, it's a statement of faith and ambition. You see it from the streets below. You see it from across the rivers. It anchors the city visually, spiritually. It's been a pilgrimage site for centuries. From the Basilika, you have perspective. You can see the entire city spread out below. The 2 rivers cutting through it, the neighborhoods, the expansion over centuries. You see how the city has grown, where it started, where it's spread to. The older parts dense and medieval, the newer parts more spacious, more planned. Each era of expansion visible from up there. The Presqu'île, the peninsula between the 2 rivers, is where modern Lyon lives. The business district, the museums, the contemporary architecture, glass buildings next to 19th century structures. It's a different rhythm, more urban, more fast, but still somehow part of the same city. People in business clothes walking to work, tourists, students, the mix that makes a city alive. The Parc de la Tête d'Or is here too, a massive park right in the center of the city, with a lake. Created in the 1800s. People walk around the lake, sit on benches, feed the birds. It's peaceful in a way that feels rare in a city this size. You see families, couples, people just taking a break from the urban rhythm. The park is a lung, a place to breathe. The Confluence Museum sits at the southern edge. Modern architecture, steel and glass. a stark contrast to the medieval buildings of Vieux Lyon. But it works, because Lyon is comfortable with contradiction. Old and new existing side by side, medieval craftsmanship and contemporary design. Both valued, both present. The food culture here is serious. Lyon is considered one of the gastronomic capitals of France. The markets sell produce, meat, fish, cheese, wine. People take their food seriously. They know where things come from, how they're made. It's woven into the daily rhythm of the city. The rivers themselves are constant. The Saône flows more slowly. The Rhône flows with more force. They define the city. They have for thousands of years. People have built bridges across them, used them for trade, used them for power generation. But they're also just there, part of the landscape, part of what makes Lyon what it is. When you walk through Lyon, virtually through street view, at your own pace, you're walking through layers of history, Roman foundations, medieval streets, Renaissance buildings, 18th century expansions, 19th century monuments, 20th century modern architecture, 21st century contemporary additions, all of it visible, all of it present. The people of Lyon have lived with this history for so long that it's just part of how they move through the city. They don't think about it constantly. It's just there, like air, like the rivers. It's embedded in everything. What makes Lyon special isn't that it's frozen in time. It's not a museum piece. It's a real city. People live here, work here, build careers, raise families, go to school, open businesses. But they do all of this in a place that's conscious of its own history, that respects what came before while also moving forward. Lyon doesn't need to try hard. It doesn't perform. It doesn't market itself aggressively. It just exists. And that's exactly why it's so remarkable. A 2,000-year-old city that's still alive, still growing, still relevant, still beautiful, still a place where you can see how humans have organized themselves, built things, created culture. This is Lyon, ancient and alive, elegant and real. A city that understands what it is and doesn't apologize for it. There's a particular magic to Lyon at different times of day. In the morning, when the light is soft and the streets are still quiet, you see the city waking up. Shop owners opening their doors, the smell of fresh bread from bakeries, people moving with purpose but not urgency. The city has a rhythm that doesn't rush. By afternoon, the streets fill. Students, workers, tourists discovering corners of the city they didn't know existed. The cafes get busier, but even crowded, Lyon doesn't feel chaotic. There's an elegance to how things move, an order beneath the activity. When evening comes, especially along the rivers, the light changes everything. The old buildings glow. The water reflects the sky. People sit outside, having drinks, having conversations. It's as if the city reveals something more intimate about itself. The history becomes softer somehow, more personal. Lyon has a textile heritage that shaped Europe for centuries. In the Renaissance, the silk industry made Lyon one of the richest cities on the continent. Weavers came from Italy. Merchants built fortunes. The money built the churches, the palaces, the bridges. That wealth created the infrastructure that's still there. Streets that were planned with intention. Buildings made of good stone. Squares designed for gathering. You can feel the legacy of that prosperity even now. It's in the quality of the stonework, the width of the streets, the attention to detail in forgotten corners. The silk industry is gone, but the city it created remains. And in a way, that's even more remarkable. Lyon isn't a theme park celebrating its own past. It's a living city that happens to have been built by people with resources and vision centuries ago. That foundation is still there. That intention is still visible. The bridges connecting the rivers aren't just functional, they're beautiful. They were designed by engineers who understood that the things you build become part of how people experience the world. Every bridge has its own character. Some are modern, some are old, some are made of stone, some of iron. They span the rivers and connect the different parts of Lyon. They're not just infrastructure, they're democracy. They're how people move between worlds, between the medieval and the modern, between the past and the present. If you spend time exploring Lyon through Street View, you notice small things. A fountain in a quiet square, graffiti mixed with ancient stonework, a bookstore tucked into an old building, a restaurant where locals have been eating for decades, a window with flowers, a cat sitting on a ledge. These are the things that make a city real, not the monuments, not the famous sights, but the small moments, the details, the life that happens when nobody's watching. Lyon is a city for people who take time, who notice things, who understand that beauty isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it's hidden, sometimes you have to look carefully to see it. But when you do, when you really look at Lyon, you understand why people have lived here for thousands of years, why they've rebuilt it, preserved it, protected it. Because there's something about this place that matters, something essential. It's not just a city, it's a conversation across centuries between the people who built it then and the people who live in it now.